In September 2018, I was lucky enough to be invited on holiday to Botswana. We stayed in such an amazing lodge with my best friend and her family, who had half come out from London and half were living in South Africa, and they had an open space and they invited me to go with them to Mashatu, Eagle's Nest, and I had such an amazing time. So you come in the front door and you've got the clothes section and the toilet in there. Through here you've got the bedroom, two beds and a little patio that goes out. So you've got nature literally right there. There's a riverbed. Elephants apparently walk past. We've got a whole lot of dung right there. And then the bathroom area. So we've got a big bathtub and you can open and look out. You've got an indoor shower here, which with a view, and then you've got your outdoor shower, which when you come and stand here at night, you've just got all of that outside. The accommodation was beautiful. It was a big main chalet with the kitchen, dining room, study, and then 4 bedroom and ensuite bathrooms, just like the one that my best friend and I were sharing. And there are no fences, there are no walls. You are in nature right then and there. One night we had hyenas that were prowling around the camp. My best friend and I were walking back to our bedroom at night and we just saw these eyes, and there at the next chalet over were a whole pack of hyenas, and we just ran straight to the room as fast as we could to just get away. I mean, we weren't really scared, but you know, we were kind of scared. I loved how everything was so open and natural, and the trees that they use for the scaffolding and the veranda and patio are fantastic. They also have a little pond outside the seating area, and lots of birds and animals come to it, and especially because, as you can see, it was so incredibly dry that all of the animals really needed it. We had troops of baboons go through twice. We had a warthog who liked to chill with us, and although it was so incredibly dry, there were patches of green everywhere, and all of the animals did actually look very well fed. There were these huge Mashatu trees everywhere, and they were absolutely amazing to behold. The pictures do not do them justice. I saw a bush pig for the first time, and I tried to take so many photos of it because they are amazing. They're bigger than warthogs, and they've got this like white mask face painting on them, and it was just amazing. They are one of the rarest animals to see in Africa, so I was so honored to see them. We also saw spring hares the one night on a nighttime game drive, and that was unbelievable. Kind of like a fluffy kangaroo mouse. That's the only way I can describe it. Of course, there were lots of impala everywhere, lots and lots of food for the carnivores to eat. I was amazed by how many animals were packed into such a small area. And you'll probably see lots of hats and photos and camera lenses around. Our first viewing of the 2 sister lionesses and their cubs, it was amazing. All of a sudden, there were just lions right there, and our driver is allowed to drive off-road and go as close as he wants. And the animals were totally chill. Like, the 2 lionesses did not care about us at all, and their 5 cubs were usually just more interested in lying down out of the sun, or playing with each other, or trying to get mom to move and do something interesting. But I have not had wild animals sort of this close before. And obviously with lions you have to keep all of your hands and cameras and everything as close to the vehicle as possible, so you don't break the silhouette and make them think, ooh, I can get some meat off of that. The elephants, there were lots and lots of elephants. We didn't have any bad experiences, because I know sometimes elephants can be a little bit antsy with people viewing them. We did kind of have one bad experience, which left my best friend a little bit shaken. Now, some of the pictures are really bad, I apologize, but I wanted to get a sense of where the animals were, and lo and behold, we see a leopard. It was amazing. I've only seen a leopard in the tree. I've not seen a leopard out. We saw so many leopards. We saw so many lions. We saw so many cheetahs. It was unbelievable. And this leopard was totally not fussed. He had found a nice place to sleep and he was just chilling there. And then we look behind us and there's a whole herd of elephant right there. And they were crossing across the way. We were impressed that they were able to get up that steep rise on the other side. Of course, the other people also have their cameras out wanting to take photos of the rarer game, and leopards are extremely rare, mainly because they only come out at night. So during the day they find a place to sleep and it's usually in a tree and you usually can't see them. Now, this was the first time that I had seen cheetahs in the wild, and I was so incredibly excited. It was a mother and 4 children, and the children were quite big and grown up, but they were still with their mom. So they were sort of together as like a herd. Well, not really a herd, like a pride, obviously. But in a few months, they would have then been kicked out and would be able to go their own way. And the mom would probably have another litter pretty soon, we were told. But they all looked so happy, and obviously all the animals were just trying to get out of the sun. It got up to it was like 37 degrees every day, all day, and it was so dry. Our hair was frizzy. You can imagine we had to put so much oil in our hair just to keep it alive. I love giraffes. They are one of my favorite animals, if not my favorite African animal, because they are so gorgeous looking and they're so quiet. They communicate by lifting their heads up almost as if they're nodding to someone, and there's a breath valve, an air valve, so they kind of make a that humans can't hear, and I find them so pretty. And the environment and all of the trees and the riverbeds we were driving on, like this one, even though the riverbeds were totally dry, there was still green and still life. And I love the baobab tree at the top of this rise because they are so majestic and so brilliant, and they are Africa. Oh, this little duiker that we found. We saw lots of duikers in Steenboks, but you can't really take pictures of them too well. Oh, and eland. They are the largest buck in Africa, and we actually saw quite a lot of them, and I had never seen them before. Oh, here we have the bee eaters. They are such pretty birds. The colors, they've got every single rainbow color on them. They are absolutely stunning. And the people we were with were very avid bird watchers. So we saw, I think it was like 98 at the end. It was unbelievable. So obviously the next day we found the lions again. They really hadn't moved much, and as you can see by the cub on his back, lions are sometimes the most boring to see. The cubs are cute because they're, moving around and roaring, and it's very sweet, but lions are actually really boring to watch on a game drive, and unfortunately it's what all the tourists want and demand to see. They want the big five, and they want lions. And sometimes lions are really not that impressive to watch, unfortunately, but they are so cute. I was glad that I wasn't as nervous with these lions, because a lot of the times when you look at a lion, it's just like dead hunter eyes, which is a little bit disconcerting. We had such amazing sunsets, having our sundowner tea in the afternoon and just seeing it go dark and then having a night drive back. We found the male lion who lived in this territory, and he did not care about us at all. We were following him through brush. There were other cars around, and he just walked so fast that we were struggling to keep up with him, and he didn't care at all. But he was a beauty, and he just looked so majestic. He didn't call, unfortunately, because hearing them call to each other is absolutely amazing. It sends chills down my spine. We've got some zebra. I love zebra as well, just because I really like horses. But zebras are sort of more classy horses in a way, I think. More giraffes. Didn't get as such great pictures of giraffes this time because the giraffes for some reason didn't want to come near the cars. We had like lions right next to us, but giraffe, no. Then we got an amazing treat. We were taken to a hyena whole pride. I'm not sure what they're called exactly. There were so many hyenas. I think we counted between 15 and 20 hyenas, and they just were encircling the car. My word, the smell was unbelievable. I've never smelt something so bad as I have being around hyenas. I think it's the droppings as well as just the fact that they were had a carcass that they were tearing apart and fighting over. Not really like fighting, but they each wanted to get their share, and they had old hyenas, teenage hyenas, and then we were told that they were babies, so we were off to go and find the babies as well. But they were also very curious. Our game driver had to rescue someone's camera lens, and we almost thought that he was going to be eaten because they were very close to the car and very, very curious. They just loved looking at us, and I think that they were one of the highlights of my trip because it was just breathtaking. They make such a funny, like, a laughter call sound that I just had to record it. And the two little babies that we saw, they were also so curious, and there weren't any adults around protecting it, so they were obviously in a very good spot. Unfortunately, we only got to see them once, so I'm thinking that the game farm limits one vehicle to go view them per day so that the hyenas don't move or get anxious. But they were coming right up to the car, and there's really not that much protecting you from the animals. There's no roof over it, and so at sometimes we felt a little bit worried, but our game driver was fantastic, and we had no bad experiences at all. I did wish we could have seen the hyenas one more time, but alas. I have so rarely seen ostriches around in game farms that I had to take a picture of the ostrich. We saw lots of elephants everywhere, and they all had babies. I was amazed by how many baby animals we were seeing. I think we saw babies of every single animal, which was absolutely fantastic. And the elephants are quite big. You can't really miss them. Speaking of big, the elands are absolutely huge. You think that they are like almost twice the size of a cow. It is incredibly impressive. Love watching giraffe drink. They are just so elegant. I know that it's a little bit awkward when they go down to drink and they have to be very aware, but it was amazing. Then we found the cheetahs, and they had a kill, and although I'm not a fan of seeing kills, they had already caught it, they had already eaten their fill, and there were actually a whole lot of jackals around that were preparing to come. Unfortunately, because of all of the rhino poaching that has been happening in Africa recently, most of the vultures have been poisoned to prevent the game rangers and the authorities from finding the kills so that the poachers can get away. It is extremely terrible, and unfortunately in this whole Botswana park there were no rhinos, and that is something that I miss terribly because seeing rhinos are wonderful. Here we've got kudu. We didn't actually see as many kudu, but when we did, there were quite large like herds of them, which I was very, very happy about. And here we have found the lion again. This time we were actually tracking the lion. Our guide had found prints, and we were tearing across the bush trying to find this lion. And I apologize that my pictures are not that great and that there are lots of heads and people in the way, but it was hysterical. I spotted the two lionesses here up on the bank. They were actually starting to look out for prey. They had hidden their babies elsewhere, and they were preparing to find something to hunt. They actually eventually met up with the male lion, so all of this stuff was happening and they were getting ready to go out on the hunt, and I was actually very proud of myself for finding for spotting them as we whizzed past, and seeing the paw prints was just amazing. So a little way away we found the male lion who we had been tracking throughout the day. And once again, he was just, you know, chilled. He was sleeping. He wasn't bothered by us at all. He eventually sort of sat up and looked at us, looking very, you know, Lion King and majestic. And I think that I will definitely give it to the lions. They are extremely majestic and impressive to look at. I have also seen tigers in captivity, obviously not in the wild, and they, with their coloring, I would also describe as majestic. But I mean, having a bright orange creature is a bit strange for us, but I suppose, I mean, giraffe prints are quite darkly orange. Now this was a very exciting moment, looking in all of these big mashatu trees. Guess what we found? I mean, yeah, our guide knew that it was there, but the leopard, we will revisit it when it is not sleeping as much. I was surprised by it that these elephants were able to actually find food and water considering how dry it is. You can see that the shepherd's bush trees are bright green and they look like they could be something, but oh wow, they are so incredibly smelly. I've never smelt something as well. The hyenas were worse, let's be honest. So we found the cheetahs again, and this time they were on the move. It was a little bit more of a dark, overcast day, as you can see by the wonderful pictures I have. And so they were actually moving a lot. So we got to see them walking, and surprisingly, they can cover, you know, quite a lot of ground. But the babies were always following after the mom. There are actually 3 babies, not 4 like I originally thought. 4 is quite a big litter for a cat so small to have. And so they were just sort of walking together and going really from tree to tree, from bush to bush. I think at this stage, because they had already eaten, they weren't particularly hungry. But I think because the mom had so many mouths to feed and there were lions around, she does have to be aware and keep moving them so that they don't cross paths with the male lion or the lionesses. Different predators do not generally get along together, but I was so incredibly grateful that I got to see cheetahs in the wild. We were with them, and I think that they are just such a beautiful species. The king cheetah with much larger black spots I have seen only in a reserve, like a special cheetah reserve, not in the semi-wild like this national park is. I think all of the animals were extremely used to seeing people around it. You can see how the tire tracks are just going everywhere at once. More lone giraffes. We didn't see like many giraffes together, which I was sad about. When we had gone to the Kruger with these same people in, I think it was January 2017, we had such amazing giraffe and buffalo experiences, like 100+ buffalo all in one go. It was incredible. Oh, here we have the bush pig again, and it was a little bit nearer and I was able to get a more clear, so you can sort of see that it's almost got like, I think of Bleach, how the hollows have got that skull mask on them. It kind of looks like that to me, and I was impressed by how white the stripes. It was also quite like Princess Mononoke, I thought. Very, very cool. Some kudu butts and some elephants coming. We especially wanted to get shots of these elephants because this little baby coming up is the smallest elephant that we've ever seen. It was a dinky, tiny little thing. I mean, either it was like newly born or it was kind of like a runt of the litter because it was so incredibly tiny. Oh, and look at these trees again. I think this is where we saw the tree lizard. Yes, it was so well camouflaged. I'm not particularly a fan of lizard. We had a water monitor come to our house once and it was absolutely terrifying. It looked like a Komodo dragon. Here we have a Kori buster. You can't really see it too well. We actually saw quite a few Kori busters, but obviously most of the birds are very well camouflaged, especially if they're ground birds. And they're meant to hide in the background. So this was a lovely male kudu that was by one of the lodges for quite a while, and I just love seeing their horns. For every complete twist in the horn, it's 5 years. Ooh, my favorite part in the roof were genets.
And this is a genet.
So just randomly in the roof, living with two genets, and I managed to catch the one coming down when, for once, we decided to stay. There was huge, huge rain that night, and so we decided to stay in instead of braving it, and it was freezing the next days. So we then got our first real proper sighting of the leopard. Now there was a leopard mom and her son. This is currently the son. He had been taken to the his mom had pretty much killed an impala for him, brought it to the tree, left him with it, and gone somewhere else to sleep. So it was a bit like strange to see this full-grown cat being babied by its mom still, but it was so wonderful to actually see him moving about a little bit. He did eventually settle down to sleep, but in amongst feeding and climbing on the trees, he did perform a little bit for us. I sometimes think of these animals as performers, and they like the attention and the paparazzi, but I mean, they were all very aware of us. In a sense, like, they totally knew we were there, but they just weren't bothered by us. Even the leopards, who, you know, are so incredibly rare and elusive. And I love to get faraway shots of the leopards in the trees, so you could just see how difficult it is to spot the leopard with the environment that they've chosen, because the dappled light through the tree looks exactly like their skin tone, and against the light it just looks like a bit of the branch. He was completely hidden, but oh, he had such beautiful, like, olive green eyes. It was stunning. Then we went and we found the two lionesses, which were still with the male lion. They had all hooked up to do some hunting. The babies were still hidden elsewhere because the, you know, moms don't bring the children out when they're being stealthy. But listening, just being in that environment when you knew that these predators were hunting something, and you were just sitting in a car watching them, like, the tension mounted. The tension was real, and I was a little bit worried that they would actually find something to hunt, because I really didn't want to see them kill anything. I don't like the concept of death and the fact that animals have to kill each other to eat, unfortunately. They moved so silently, it was unbelievable. So they were hunting, stalking an eland, so we decided to just leave them to it because there were lots of cars around and they were getting a bit disturbed. So then we went to find the mom leopard, and we found her, and it was very cute, and we got to see the baby again. They were in two mashatu trees which were pretty close together, so a sort of similar territory, which was very nice to see. And oh, they're just like regular sleeping cats. It's so cute. This was the biggest herd of wildebeest that we saw, so I tried to get a few pictures. You can also see a bit of the car. Like, my pictures are not brilliant, I have to say. Then I had to get a picture of the lilac-breasted roller, because when I go to a game reserve, they are my favorite birds to see, just because I love how bright and colorful they are. It's like, in such a drab, dreary Africa, you get these birds that are just so amazingly colorful. You can see it's hot again because the kudu are sleeping underneath the tree, so you can barely see what it is that we are looking at. But there were a few kudus around and under the trees, and as I said before, lots of babies around, which was very, very nice to see. And some of them liked to stay for pictures and some of them didn't. Kudus are, I suppose, a little bit more shy because they're generally solitary. I do think kudus are very, very beautiful, though I'm a little bit disappointed that the females don't have majestic horns like the males, but you know, you can't have everything in life. The males fight, so they need the horns. I think these were the best pictures of giraffes that I managed to take, and once again, it was like single giraffes. Like, we saw a lot of giraffes, but they were usually really, really far away. I think almost every time we stopped for sundowners, there was a giraffe in the distance watching us. It was actually pretty amazing to see the animals around us 24/7. Oh, the two jackals, there were a pair of jackals who had a hole here. I just had to get at least one shot. Okay, now this. We found the cheetahs on the side of a mountain covered in rocks, and our daredevil guide was like, yeah, no, we could totally make that. And it was insane. We thought numerous times that we were going to die. I decided to call him Bugani Kamikaze because he just like went for it sometimes, and you were like, no, the car definitely can't make that, but it made it every single time. So the three babies were chilling together. The mom was a little bit further down. It was really bright, and as you can see, it's super overexposed. Ooh, that's a bad shot. Super overexposed, but like at being there was much better, and I just wanted to try and take a few pictures to show my parents like how close we were, because the car was literally right next to them. They got a little bit, you know, nervous when the car rolls up initially, and they're like, okay, are we meant to be scared of you? And then when we just sit there, then they calm down. So this is Mommy Leopard. She was actually making her way to the tree to see Baby Leopard, and she was right by the side of the road, and it was fantastic. The shots aren't great because I've obviously zoomed in so much, but she was right next to us, and but you know, I got some shots, and my best friend got much better shots, which I will show at the end, just because like I'm using my little cell phone camera and she's got one of these like professional zoom lens things, which are absolutely fantastic. Oh, I love the shot just because it's like the little tail of a leopard and it's so cute. And unfortunately, I didn't want to, you know, take pictures of it eating and stuff, but you can totally see the impala hooves. I just don't like, you know, like the blood and the gore aspects of it, and I know that's a part of nature, but it's not, doesn't mean that it's a part of nature that I have to like. And then here is the lazy male. This was before they had actually gotten their eland down. This was just before nighttime, and we were like, okay, let's go and check on the lions if they managed to catch anything, and they hadn't, but that night they caught something, and so we were able to see it the next day. So they had gotten the babies out because they had pretty much, you know, failed, but the two sisters were still on point. They were still very aware, but because the cubs wanted attention and were playing, we actually got some very nice videos and pictures of the interaction, and they really do just act like domesticated cats. And then they bring down something twice the size of a cow, and you're like, oh, okay, no, actually these things are pretty dangerous. But I mean, the cubs are so cute, and they were chatty and talkative and just meowing and rolling in the sand, and it was much better because it was so nice and cool for them. They weren't so hot and bothered, and so just to see this side of the babies was fantastic.
Yeah, mommy, can you make something for us?
hysterically in my videos you can see tell when something very cute is happening, because all of a sudden the clicks escalate and the clickosity. But there were three, the three of the lion cubs were older and two were younger, so you could see which litters they were from. The jackals, they were so cute. I just love seeing jackals so incredibly much, and we saw so many of them, which was I was so happy about. These elephants were very cute. On the side of a cliff. I think we were either making our way back from or going to try find the cheetahs again. I don't think we found the cheetahs again this time around. They had moved on. But this is the first time that I had seen a baby elephant drinking from its mom, and I was not actually aware until this trip that the mother's milk udders, shall we say, are at the front, like under her elbow. Then all of a sudden we turn a corner and there is another leopard, probably a male leopard, they thought, and it walked across this canyon, found a tree, and was performing like a circus animal. It was having a blast with this tree, sniffing it, scratching it, just right there next to us. It was so incredibly close. It was the closest I've ever been to a leopard, and it was performing beautifully, and like if we had been 2 minutes later, we would have missed it. And then he decided, off he went, and about like 2 minutes later this other car came, and we were like, there was like a leopard right there, it's up there. And so they went to try and find it, but they didn't get nearly as great shots as we did. So we went back to the mom and the baby. I think this is the mom because the tree looks a little bit different to the baby's one, but I could be wrong just because like there's no way to tell. So then we found the lions, and the lions had brought down an eland in the night. They were all full and eaten and all together. The male's a little bit in the distance. I think the lionesses sometimes also like to keep the cubs away from the dad, and here they were full and fat and happy, but I'm pretty sure the cubs were already like, no, want some more. So as we were leaving, the male then came back to the carcass to eat, and then like 3 of the babies decided to go with him, and he was, you know, and they were still eating at the same time. It was crazy. The stupid thing was delayed and only recorded after. I was trying to catch views of the birds taking off and the 2 vultures in the sky. Those were the only vultures that we saw the entire time, so it was a little bit sad and worrying to see that they weren't there, because they are such an important part of the ecosystem. But you know, there's nothing that we can do. We just have to further conservation and hopefully stop rhino poaching, because it's bad. It's gotten to the point where they're pretty much gone now. Seeing the elephants is always very cute. They were very docile, which I liked, because a lot of the times you hear bad stories about elephants being very aggressive and charging people, but you also need to just be aware of the animal, and if it looks like it's a little bit moody, you stay away from it. Like, you're trespassing on its territory, so you better be the polite one. So we went back to the leopards again. This was just a whole lot of looking at it from directly below. Like, at one stage it was directly above us, and when they turn over they look like they're going to fall out the tree, so it's a little bit worrying. I didn't get too many pictures because, you know, it's looking up straight into the sun. All you see is one leg here, one leg there, and that's pretty much what a leopard does, and what pictures people get of leopards when they come to Africa. Just getting some more scenery shots to show how dry it was, and how every section had like a different vegetation and a different theme, which was absolutely amazing to see ecologically wise. That was an eagle owl. There was an eagle owl mom and her chick in the tree, and they were calling to each other. It is the most eerie, creepy noise I've ever heard in my entire life, but it was amazing, unbelievable to have gotten something like that. Now, some pictures of my favorite locations, and just seeing the baobab trees again, and how green it was on the side of the riverbanks and the rocks, and you have all these different trees and sort of vegetation in one place, but it was beautiful. And these pictures to me are like representative of what Botswana is always going to mean to me. And underneath these big trees with berries, there were just baboons and kudus and impala, and they're all just on the side of the cliff eating, going crazy. And I suppose when they don't have that much rain and grass everywhere, they gotta do it. Had to take one picture of the guinea fowl. We saw quite a few, but like, we've got guinea fowl living in gardens, so it's not big. That was a hummerkop. So I had to get a picture of the hummerkop bird. We went to see the leopard one last time. This is on our last day, so it was sort of going to see the animals for one last time. This one is definitely doing a little bit of performing and lying, and it looked so incredibly unsturdy and unstable. And this is at home. The breakfast, as we were leaving, this little hornbill decided that it was going to come very close and sort of beg for food. Didn't come up onto the veranda or the stoep, but it was definitely right there and wanting food from us. So that is the end of my Botswana trip. I had an amazing time. These were the red spoonbill cranes, I believe, which I'd never seen before. They were enormous. And now I'm going to leave you with pictures that my best friend took. She is an amazing photographer, and I think hers are way better than mine.